One question that almost always arises with new sales managers, particularly those in the first 6 months after being appointed into the role, is how they cope with the transition from salesperson to sales manager. In this lesson, I'll offer a few pointers, although it is something that is very personal and different for different individuals, depending very much on your individual situation. If you have a lot of experience of management, then you may not want to continue with this particular topic and skip straight to thinking about how to be coached and radical candor. If you're an aspiring manager, then this topic is one that you can only prepare for. And while you may be thinking that you may not be able to put everything into practice immediately, in fact, preparation and where possible engineering the scope of your first role is going to be critically important. So when we talk about transition in this context, what do we mean? Now, in this program, I'm not going to spend time telling you lots of old war stories from the good old days, but I'll make a bit of an exception here, because this is one of the areas where we don't see things have changed all that much. I well remember my first sales manager job, and particularly some of the questions that I kept asking myself during those first few months. I was working for Digital Equipment, now part of HP, and was promoted to manage the team in which I'd been a salesperson. It was a reasonable sized team of 7 good, very competent account managers, selling mostly into manufacturing companies and some pharmaceuticals in the south of the UK. My background had included 8 years as a salesperson, mostly in general financial and commercial markets, but with a specialisation for the last few years in pharmaceutical customers. I was very fortunate to have been well prepared for the move into management, having attended lots of excellent management training courses and with a very, very supportive boss. Now, in my view, there are a number of advantages and some disadvantages of managing the team that you had been a salesperson in, and I'll discuss these later. The transition that I went through, and which many sales managers told me was similar for themselves, involved asking lots of questions such as, what should be my management style? Should I be autocratic and strong, or should I be a very democratic manager, recognising the strength and depth of the team? Can I still be one of the team, or do I have to set myself apart from them? How do I handle the people in the team who were really good personal friends and those who'd I'd been friendly with but I wouldn't say was all that close? What about other people in the office? I was now seen as management, and did I have some kind of responsibility to others or any authority over them? So the questions are quite personal, and I knew from my training what the theoretical answers should be, but for me, and I believe for most new sales managers, it is different when you personally feel it. This is not an area where we can give prescriptive answers, so as always, it's going to be a case of discussing it with your coach. But I will offer some general comments. Whatever you feel about wanting to be a part of the team and one of the players, people will start treating you differently. It can often be in very subtle ways, such as not always inviting you to a coffee with them, not explaining to you the latest way to work around some difficult system or process, being a little guarded when you ask their opinion on something, and definitely giving you a slightly different, or maybe a very different perspective on progress with some important deals. So whatever you think, the team members will create a little space between you and them, which you have to accept as part of the role. This can be particularly difficult with people that you would regard as personal friends, but hopefully you can address this with them directly if your relationship is strong. As well as your team treating you differently, other people across the organisation will also start reacting to you differently. It's also probable that you will react to them differently in your new role and with your new perspective. For example, if you have a technical pre-sales support type of team working with you, your relationship with that manager is going to be different. As a salesperson, it was probably a case of trying to persuade them that your deals and your customers were the most deserving of the best support. As a sales manager, it's going to be working with the pre-sales manager to make sure that the overall resource is used wisely and balanced against competing demands, when almost certainly demand will outstrip supply. Maybe you'd like to reflect back on the concept of the sales manager sandwich and how your behaviours can impact on the relationship that you have with all these individuals. The question of what should be your management quotes style is a good one. You may already have had some training on this, and we will cover it later in this programme. But, spoiler alert, there is no such thing as the best style. Adaptability is going to be key, using different styles at different times with different people, while also staying true to your authentic self and your own values. The other issue that I suffered from somewhat, and practically everyone I coach admits to, is what is often known as imposter syndrome. That feeling where you doubt that your skills, talents or accomplishments are up to it, and you have a fear of being exposed as a fraud. This is despite the fact that your boss and others think that you are competent. Now, there is some validity to this. Not thinking of yourself as an imposter, but as someone who has yet to prove that they can do the job and do it well. Emotionally, this can be difficult, as probably for many years you had been at least a good and maybe a top performing salesperson, whilst now you have no track record to fall back on if your performance takes a dip, as it surely will at some stage in your management career, but hopefully not at the beginning. Fortunately, hand in hand with this potential feeling of lack of confidence is something that is often referred to as the honeymoon period. The fact that you do not have a track record of success means that you also don't have a track record of mistakes or perceived mistakes, and normally you're going to be given lots of freedom and lots of license to do things your way. So what can you do? If you're an aspiring manager, be prepared for this period of questioning. Try to think it through beforehand. Think carefully about the kind of role that you want in your first sales management role. The move represents a big change for you, so you probably don't want to make too many other degrees of change. Do you really want to move into sales management at the same time as moving sector or location or even company? On the other hand, managing the team of which you are a part has its own challenges. If you're a new sales manager, then this topic maybe should take up quite a bit of a time talking with your coach. I'd also recommend that you talk it through with your boss. Clarify if you do have a honeymoon period. Some bosses might even give you a harder time if you're perceived as being one of their people. Whereas as a salesperson, you are probably adept at managing lots of customer and internal relationships. As a manager, you will have many more relationships. Think back to the management squeeze. And you're going to have to do things and make decisions that affect people, possibly deeply and possibly personally. You're not going to be able to please all the people all the time, as you do things such as allocate customers or leads, prioritise some deals over others for pre-sales resource. And this may be another factor that you have to get used to and not be too bothered by. In the further resources section of this module, there's an article about the new boss, where you can read about the various characters that you might come across. It's hopefully a good bit of preparation, as well as providing some light relief in your development journey. One question that sometimes arises is what to do about the ex-boss, which can be an opportunity or a threat to you. Ideally, the ex-boss is still in the organisation and can give you genuine advice and guidance. But there is always the danger that they may resent any changes that you make to their baby. They may have left the organisation for a better job, or maybe they've left in disgrace. But whatever, there will probably be people in your team who were loyal to them, who like them, who want to follow them into whatever team they are now leading. The ex-boss will also be the source of much justification for things that some salespeople hold dear, and you may well hear comments such as, ex-boss always approved this, ex-boss approved this ages ago, ex-boss said this is the way to do it. Now, ex-boss may have been very experienced and successful, and you may be new and without a track record. So maybe there are some things that you can learn from how ex-boss did things. My strong advice is to be confident in your own position and make it very clear that whatever happened under ex-boss, good or bad, you are now the new sales leader. Finally, a blatant plug for the Real Sales Manager podcast, as how to cope during the transition period is a question that I ask many of my guests, and their personal experience and observation of others is fascinating and really valuable. We hope that you've enjoyed this tutorial and found it useful in developing your sales management skills. It's one of a series designed to help aspiring, new or developing sales managers. Please subscribe to get access to all of the tutorials in the series and to get news of new ones added. You can also go to www.realsalesmanager.com, where you'll find lots of other activities and resources, as well as guides suggesting the best sequence in which to listen to or watch these tutorials.